Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am your host, Mary Catherine Ham, back in the studio with my friend Vic Mattis and co-host of the Washington Free Beacon. Another wild news week, and I gotta say, I am reading with my children the last of the Harry Potter books while this week is happening, and it's too much. It's too much. There's too much drama, both in real life and in fiction right now, and I'm how shall I process it? Anyway, I'm here to process it with you. Your morning show for any hour, Getting Hammered. How is it going, Vic?
When you say, Mary Catherine, that you're trying to process it, do you mean like Harry's dying and coming back to life, that thing? Because I still haven't figured out.
Hey, don't spoil anything.
It's only been out a couple of years, the book. The thing where he has it in his hand. He's
Seriously,
got
don't tell me.
Resurrection
Seriously,
Stone.
don't tell me.
The Resurrection Stone. Okay, Mary Catherine, doing well.
Hey. I seriously don't know what happens in the book.
You saw the movie. Oh, I don't know
what happens in the book.
Oh, well, I didn't read the book, so there you go. I'm talking about the movie. Isn't the book based on the movie?
We're going to have to cut this out. I'm going to have to overcome my Biden-like rage at this moment.
Okay. I did it to you again, Mary Catherine. I cannot believe you do. Okay. So, we're keeping it. This is it. This is the content that people crave. They want to know that there's like tension. Okay.
Oh my God. To be fair, it is like a 25 year-old.
This is like my friend telling me about the perfect storm. The perfect storm in the ship, and he goes, "I can't believe they revealed the ship went down."
Have you ever seen The Sixth Sense? Let me tell you about it.
Of the crying game. Let's go back to the crying game, Mary Catherine. Can I talk about the crying game?
I hope my kids aren't listening to this podcast. Okay.
So I do want to say I am doing well. I am doing well, and I'm glad we weren't taping yesterday because I was much more casual and wearing shorts because we went to the doctor's office just for some checkup stuff. But you want to be I like the look on Jennifer's face. She's very concerned. What does that mean about wearing shorts? No, just casual in general because and the thing is, when you go to doctor's office now, it's just like, okay, am I going to have to put all these things on? Like in the wintertime, you got to take everything off, blah, 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 and it's just easier in and out. My father-in-law, who is a retired urologist, he tells me in sort of his old way of, back in the day,
right?
Patients in the waiting room, they were all dressed up. Oh. They all got dressed up.
With a hat on.
Yes, to go to the doctor's office, and then they would have to take everything off and then put everything. But they weren't wearing like sweatpants. And today, of course, it's the other way around, and it's not just us. Obviously, nurses, everybody. Remember, the nurses had uniforms and the whole thing. Now it's very much more comfortable. We've all opted for comfort. Are you the same way when you go to a doctor's office?
Yes, I would say that in my heart, there's a part of me that wants to be like, dress how you want to be perceived, dress for the job you want, that idea. And yet, my entire life, have I done that? No.
You're aspiring to it.
I just in my heart, it seems like a good idea. But when I'm looking at my closet, it does not seem like a good idea, as illustrated by the fact that I'm wearing this dumb hat and a tank top right now. So I pretty much do that all the time.
Okay.
Unless I'm going, obviously, if I'm going to the White House or the Capitol, I dress it up a little bit. Or, need to meet somebody important.
Yes.
Or go to church. I try to be presentable at church, although we've taken it really down several notches at church as well. And I do think that's the better part of valor, to get there with your kids than to worry about how you're looking. Come as you are.
No, getting there is more than half the battle.
Jesus is down with that.
That's right.
But sometimes I am disappointed with myself. And there have been times that I have tried and, for instance, flown with sort of a cute outfit on. Like I'm like,
oh yeah.
Not dressy.
Flying is an interesting thing.
Presentable.
Flying fashion. Yes.
And then I feel better because I have become presentable.
Well, again, and you hear this, and my in-laws say this all the time. Back in our day, people got dressed up to go onto planes. That would be my mother-in-law's voice. Yeah. But then other people had theories that also, if you dressed up well, they might just bump you up. Yeah. I don't think that happens anymore. Maybe on a non-American airline, they might do that. But everything is so tightly packed now that I don't think that's happening. But the funny thing is, my father-in-law mentioned specifically Art Carney, the great late great actor from The Honeymooners. He was a patient of his, And he said Art Carney was always dressed up
Very
when
nice.
he showed up. And so, you know, my father is also, he's a retired general surgeon. Weird world of small worlds. There was a time, in different times, before they knew each other, my father and father-in-law, where they had, at different points, the same patient. And that patient was Art Carney. Is that weird?
It's very funny.
Yes, my father treated him like, I think, in the early 70s, and then my father-in-law treated him, I think, in the 80s.
Well, it's that famous game, 6 Degrees of Art Carney.
It's 6 degrees of physicians, really. So that is what's happening with me. Otherwise, everything is, all things considered, fine. Mary Catherine, how are you?
All is good here. You know, we're just, summer rolls along. The children are growing exponentially. Someone asked me about birthday presents for my oldest and like what size she wears.
Yeah.
And every time someone asks me what size shoes she wears, I have to go downstairs, find her shoes, make her try on her shoes to then tell someone what the size might be, because she grows a shoe size once every 6 months.
Yes.
So I was wrong in my guess yesterday and I had to amend it. So things are going well. Summer moving right along. Some are not moving right along, by the way, and I'm going to throw a curveball at you. For the folks that are stuck at Atlanta Airport, at Hartsfield-Jackson.
As we record this?
Yeah, it's a huge, huge backup after that Counter-Strike slowdown.
Still.
So, no, it's not Counter-Strike that's causing the problem anymore, which, by the way, that should be a bigger story this week. The huge stoppage in work in many an industry over this computer bug. But all the other airlines have sort of gotten back to what they were doing. And I want to thank United for getting me home from the RNC quite efficiently, despite all of that.
I was going to ask, and you flew not out of Milwaukee.
I flew out of Chicago on the day that the shutdown was happening. And I only had a 2.5-hour delay, which I think was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was very weird. Speaking of which, it was like living in a time when you dress up nicely for the plane, because it was all blue screens. You had no information about when your flight might take off.
Right.
I was sort of Googling my flight number to see if there was any information there.
All blue screens, so just
there's no information. And they were announcing over PA everything that you needed to know. And so you had no idea if you were at the right gate. You had no idea if your flight existed.
Wow.
And and then every time the PA started going, all of us listened intently because that was the only way you were finding out anything.
So
I just want to put this in the universe. If I were running a presidential campaign that had a bunch of money from tech billionaires to spare, I might send a fleet of rental cars to Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport for a bunch of families that have been stuck there for days.
No.
Because there's no hotels, there's no rental cars. It might be resolving now-ish, but I just think like if you were Elon Musk and you could geotag a bunch of Teslas and send them over there, maybe you'd want to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is, I believe that I saw a story, a headline about Delta Airlines and not being able to locate flight crews. Is this part of it, I assume?
Yeah, they've.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's the backup. The backup is so grave that luggage is abandoned, luggage is lost. There's no telling when you're getting on a flight. Flights have been canceled with no reimbursement, like all sorts of crazy stuff.
That's awful.
So anyway, just a thought I had. My husband and I, and this will segue to the news quite nicely, are watching The Death of Stalin.
It is a great movie. A great movie.
Is a
very British.
Superb movie. It is from the makers of In the Loop, which is the political satire that preceded Veep, which we are now living in.
That's right. Iannucci, I think, is the Armando Iannucci.
Actually, should we talk to Armando about the future of our politics?
What happens
because
next?
Maybe he knows. He has programmed both Veep and The Death of Stalin, which has a lot of echoes.
It is.
With the public-facing story and behind-the-scenes maneuvers that we are hearing about in the Biden White House right now. Now, I'm not rumor-mongering, but I would like to say that we have not seen the president since Friday. He's supposed to be on TV Wednesday.
That's right.
For
Big address.
Primetime address, which I appreciate because you should address the nation when we're in a sort of perilous feeling time.
When the question is, who's in charge?
Yeah, people are concerned. we deserve assurances that you are in charge, and that if you're not, you are making plans to fix that. Now, he says that his primetime address will be about the way forward and how he plans to get things done in the future. That's his tweet today from his account. He was supposed to come back from Delaware a little bit earlier, but they have said no for today. So presumably that will be on Wednesday that he'll arrive back. I just think all the people who lie about all the things for all the years don't get to tell me that I can't think it's weird that the president, who was really dug in on not quitting, decided in a 12-hour period to totally change his mind, put out a Twitter announcement of this, followed some 20 minutes later by an endorsement of Kamala Harris. There's no pictures of him executing his presidential duties. There is no two-camera statement.
Right.
I think the American people deserve more than that, even if you're sick. Now, what we have gotten is at Kamala's debut at the Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware headquarters for the now Harris campaign. We got him on the phone to Kamala and the crew in Delaware.
Yeah.
So we have a proof of life spotting, right?
Audio-wise.
Audio. But it is just very odd and I think disrespectful to people.
To the American people, to the sort of the...
Well, again, everyone who has scolded the people who are right.
Right.
For making up conspiracy theories like that Joe Biden might not be well enough to be executing the duties of the campaign in the office, which we were all told was cheap fakes. All those people are like, oh, how dare? How dare you have questions about how this is being handled? No, I have questions about how this is being handled.
Well, you see, the thing is, Mary Catherine, the Republicans like to look back, but the Democrats are forward-looking. So there's no real need to look at what happened to that last guy. Forget his name. Oh, right, it's Joe Biden, who's still the president.
The headline from the New York Times, far right spreads baseless claims about Biden's whereabouts.
Yeah.
President Biden, who has been sidelined with COVID, is set to address the nation this week. I don't even think it's about his whereabouts. I know he's in Delaware.
There, yes. That's where he spends most of his time.
It's about his condition.
Right.
It's about his willingness to do the job, part of which is talking to the American people and assuring them that he's doing the job. Right. Which we all understandably have some doubts about, which is why they pushed him out, which is why we're asking the question. Yeah.
You have this fear that it's there's a scene in that great movie, The King's Speech, where George V, after he suffers lack of oxygen to the brain, not necessarily a stroke, I believe, but he's not able to reason anymore, and they're all surrounding him, family and other officials, and then they have to invoke Custos Regni, which is somebody has to take custody over the king because the king is no longer competent enough to make decisions. And he's aware. He's not in a coma yet. He's aware, but then they have to just have him sign something, and then it's done. And until we see the president, you have all these crazy ideas floating around about, rumors about the president's condition. But I'm sure that by the time, certainly maybe when our listeners hear this episode, maybe their fears will be laid to rest when they see President Biden. Pay no mind that if he looks like Max Headroom from, slightly altered in weird ways and
glitchy.
Glitchy. That's okay. It is just,
we are earning our banner right now.
We are.
Suspect information.
It's really just a bad quality beta tape. Yes.
Moderately right and moderately reliable.
Yes.
Here is just some of the audio of Biden addressing his campaign while Kamala was about to take the stage in that campaign headquarters.
And now I'd like to introduce a man who we all admire and respect because he has done and continues to do so much for our country.
That is his campaign manager.
Got it. Thank you.
Introducing him.
Mr. President, thank you for calling in today. Over to you.
Julie, if I didn't have COVID, I'd be sitting there with you, standing there with you. I'm so proud of what you've all done. But this COVID has keeping me out of people's hair for the next 3 or 4 days. But I'm going to be on the road, and I'm not going anywhere. It's kept me away a little bit, but I want people to remember that what we have done has been incredible, and we get so much more we're going to get done. And so I want to say hello to Kamala if she can hear me. I know she's going to be speaking shortly, and I want to say to the team, embrace her. She's the best. I want to call today to thank everybody in this effort.
So there he is.
Am I going to get in trouble for saying this?
What?
If any of the listeners have ever wondered how I sound like after 3 martinis, sorry, no, is that wrong?
Don't.
So he's slurring. Do you remember when people were making fun of? He's not stuttering. He's not stuttering. So I'm not talking about that.
Oh no,
but there
I
is
think
a slur.
You're making fun of his
yeah, I know.
stutter.
And people were criticized if you had any questions about his speech. So obviously he's on the Paxlovid. So I don't blame him. So I'm just saying. He clearly does not sound well and in a position to keep on running. So I'm glad he has acknowledged that. The question is he able to still be president for the next 6 months? That's really the question.
We did get an update from his doctor who says he is executing his presidential duties. Kevin O'Connor is his family doctor. There was a story the other day that he's also a family business associate. That's from Politico. That feels relevant to me.
Yeah.
This is from Politico reporting. President Joe Biden is leaning on the credibility of White House physician Kevin O'Connor's optimistic assessment of his health, but that physician is a family intimate and one-time business associate of the president's brother. When Biden's brother Jim was exploring a business venture aimed at securing Veterans Affairs contracts in 2017, I'm sure, what contact would he use for that, I wonder? How would he do that? O'Connor introduced him to a military-focused medical team and accompanied him to a meeting with a hospital president. Just worth noting. He also said in that letter that he has had, 8 was the first number and 10 was the second number of Paxlovid.
Wow.
Administrations, what do they call it, doses.
Yeah.
I understand that drug is hard on the body, so I hope that he is doing as well as possible.
It is, I mean, there was speculation, obviously, before that about why wasn't he on TV. And issued a statement on Twitter with, I think, only a minute's notice for most of the White House staff, outside of, Ricchetti and Donnellan.
Well,
right?
And I think that is a jerk move. And as I've said, I know you don't want it to leak, but I was talking to Guy Benson about it yesterday, and he pointed out smartly, call an all-hands call. You're the president of the United States.
Right.
You can have an all-hands call very quickly. You've written up the
statement. People will drop everything for that.
Yes. You've written up the statement. You tell your staff. In the moment that you tell your staff, someone pushes the button, deploys the announcement, so that your staff technically knows.
Yeah, and you were
before
told,
it's gone out into the world. It did not
by your
go
boss.
that way. I'll read a little bit from Politico reporting also.
Okay.
About why he changed his mind. It says, for 23 days, President Joe Biden insisted on pushing forward with his re-election bid in the face of calls from Democratic lawmakers and donors for him to step aside. And then, almost on a dime, things changed. Early Saturday, Biden told senior aides it was full steam ahead for the campaign. But later that evening, he had changed his mind following a long discussion with his 2 closest aides. Steve Ricchetti, who has been with Biden since his days in the Senate, drove to see the president at his house on the Delaware Shore on Friday. Mike Donnellan arrived on Saturday. The 2 men, both of whom had been by Biden's side during key decisions about whether to seek the presidency in 2016 and 2020, sat at a distance from the president, still testing positive for COVID, and presented damning new information in a meeting that would hasten the end of Biden's political career. In addition to presenting new concerns from lawmakers and updates on a fundraising operation that had slowed considerably, they carried the campaign's own polls, which came back this week and showed his path to victory in November was gone, according to 5 people familiar with the matter, who, like others interviewed for this article, were granted anonymity to discuss private conversations. Biden asked several questions. The only other people with Biden in the residence when he arose Sunday were First Lady Jill Biden and 2 other trusted aides, Deputy Chief of Staff Annie Tomasini and Assistant to the First Lady Anthony Bernal. That's Annie and Anthony, who we've heard a little bit about from Axios reporting that they're pretty high up in the old pecking order over there. So he at 1:45 it says he notified a somewhat larger group, and then came the big announcement. I like this paragraph. The announcement, which shocked the political world, almost immediately flipped the narrative around Biden. Wouldn't you know it? His own party, after 3 weeks of deriding him privately as an isolated, deluded lion in winter, dragging other Democrats down with him, was showering him with loving tributes praising his record, career of public service, and a selfless decision. They said put his country first. Okay. He was dragged kicking and screaming into this.
Right.
Or maybe, I don't know if he's doing a lot of kicking and screaming these days, but he was dragged to this decision. And I think the turnabout in the narrative, not just from politicians, is quite transparent, but the turnabout from, or the turnaround from media is just an admission that, like, this is part of the deal.
Yeah.
This is what Biden needed to step aside, and they are willing to give it to him because that adversarial press that you saw for almost 1 month in the year of our Lord 2024 is no more.
It was like, look at what they can do if they use their powers for good.
No, R.I.P.
You know, and then they're back
RIP,
to doing their old thing.
June 27th?
Yeah.
2024 to July 21st, 2024.
That was it. It was a golden month. It's not a golden year. It wasn't a golden era, really. It was a golden month of journalism.
They were, really after it for that month.
I've been doing a lot of World War II reading because in a couple of weeks I'm off to Europe for a World War II trip. And, you read about the demise.
We're going to have to find a feisty young lady who didn't fall from the coconut tree to replace you.
Yes, that's right. And somebody who's not going to be giving any spoilers to books or movies for that matter. No, it didn't happen. But, reading about, for example, the demise of the German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, after he got connected and implicated, he wasn't really a part of it, but with the attempt on Hitler's life, the Gestapo basically visited him and said, we'll give you two choices. And this is either, if you push back, you get like an execution and humiliated, or if you take your own life, we're going to say the most amazing things about you. And you know what? He took his own life. He was sick for a long time, they said.
The rumor is that Pelosi's message was, you can do this the easy way or the hard way. And that she gave him 3 weeks of the easy way. That was the easy way, guys.
Yeah.
That's what that looked like.
Must have been the 3 worst weeks of his life. Again, these people, there were so many reasons you and I posited for Biden not to leave. In particular, that these people, they've been waiting for this moment for, 40 years, many of them,
right.
and it is, and to say that, he's going to step down because, again, he doesn't give us a reason why, but obviously he has COVID.
I'm sure we'll have more
It is
tomorrow.
such an ignominious way to end your presidency. And again, it's the first time in something like 56 years since a president has announced he's not going to seek re-election, but not because of a particular policy or what's happening in the world geopolitically, but rather because I am not well. But we don't know. As you mentioned, he hasn't given that reason. And clearly, with all these stories coming out, the pressure for him is because he was losing, because there's a running theme here.
Yeah, this is not a moral decision. This is a political decision.
The running theme, and it came out after you were just reading that, was you don't have a path to victory.
Yes.
Therefore, you must step down. So is that how it works?
A guy on Twitter, who's I think formerly of the Washington Post, Paul Farhi, makes this point, pointing to Oliver Darcy. He says, if the media was truly in the tank for Biden, as conservatives have long insisted, how to explain the avalanche of negative coverage and commentary after June 27th that helped drive him from the race? Can we imagine, Oliver and Paul? Your desires are aligned with the leadership of the Democratic Party, who, aside from Biden's personal aides and family, wanted him out of the race. There, I've solved the mystery. I have solved the mystery, everyone.
Are they gaslighting us, trolling us, or are they that clueless?
I don't.
Do they really believe
I think that
they are, in the middle? They're calling strikes and balls, and this just happened, and now they're going to go forward, and obviously Kamala is just the better candidate. So that's also not being biased at all.
Self-regard can be quite blinding. And look, I'm sure I have blind spots myself in this way. But if you truly believe that you're the smartest and the fairest and the most honest person in Washington, you have trouble understanding that you're really dropping the ball, I think. So that is something that blinds a lot of people. This is not great.
I do want to add that I was wrong about what I thought was the reason why Biden was not on TV to announce his announcement. I thought he might have had a zit or a sty, because they always come at the worst moments.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I can't let anybody see me right now.
There's an episode of Saved by the Bell like that about
Is that right?
Kelly Kapowski having a...
What did she have?
She had a big zit.
She had a big zit.
at an important moment.
I had a sty.
I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
I had a sty right before I went out on a date once. Let me tell you something. Date did not work out.
You know,
so yeah, it's a good thing it wasn't Kate.
Styes are a problem.
Yeah, because people are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? What kind of a lifestyle do you lead? Okay.
In that episode, by the way, Screech, I believe, creates a zit cream for her. Okay.
I like one that worked. Oh, that's good.
I don't know.
Okay.
A sty is a curse. Like you can't look normal walking around with a sty.
No, it is. It's almost medieval like.
The eyes are the window to the soul, and nobody wants to look at them. Nobody wants to look at them.
You know what the lesson is? Don't touch your eyes like ever. But you know this. You know, on TV all the time, you're never supposed to touch your face, right?
I know. I'm bad at that. COVID taught me I'm bad at that. Okay. There's also sort of floodgates opening for Biden stories.
Oh, yeah.
Feds discover transcripts of Biden chats with biographer. Oh, look at that. The Justice Department told a federal judge late Monday that it has located transcripts it previously denied having of President Joe Biden's talks with a biographer that played a role in the recently completed criminal investigation into Biden's handling of classified material before he became president. In the wake of a report, special counsel Robert Hur deserves the biggest apology, by the way, issued in February, that described Biden as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The Justice Department has been swamped with Freedom of Information Act requests and lawsuits demanding access to various records related to Hur's probe. You love how, like, a journalistic outlet here, this is Politico, is sort of sympathizing with the Justice Department. Like, it's just so many FOIA requests.
So many. We need help.
They've been flooded. How are they to do their work? How are they to do their important work when they are so flooded with FOIA requests?
You sound like Fred Willard in A Mighty Wind. I can't do my work. Okay.
Don't spoil that one either.
Sorry.
Okay. So I'm gonna get crap for being too hard on you.
I have to tell you what happens at the end of Gone with the Wind. You're not gonna believe it.
Some of the requests.
The South loses.
Some of the requests came from news outlets, while others originated with conservative groups apparently seeking to obtain information that could reinforce doubts about Biden's mental acuity and fitness for the presidency. Wow, that'd be crazy. Maybe if you guys had dealt with this a year and a half ago, you wouldn't be in this position now. Nagging concerns about those issues, particularly after a disastrous debate performance against Donald Trump last month, helped drive Biden's announcement Sunday that he is dropping his bid for re-election. Anyway, just so
you know what's they left out the key detail here, which is where they found those files. It was in an upper closet right next to a box that said Rose Law Firm. All right, that's a deep one. I don't know. How many people remember that?
It's a deep cut.
It's a deep cut. Remember that they found that.
Do we have any more Biden news, or we'll just await his?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, he was not well enough to greet the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu.
Okay, so I want to be responsible and fact checked us a little bit, because I thought I was like concerned about this, and I remain concerned about this because who's in charge? And Netanyahu was reportedly in the air or boarding the plane when he finds out he doesn't know what meetings he has this week.
Yeah.
That was reported by some Israeli media, relayed by Noah Pollack, who has a pretty good handle on Israeli media. So he finds that out. I did see an Israeli reporter who I trust saying, I've traveled with during Democratic and Republican administrations with the Prime Minister, and he has not always met on the tarmac. Okay. However, in this moment, much like having the president speak to everybody, I think it would be reassuring to have a plan for how Netanyahu will be greeted.
A head of state of the only, democracy in the Middle East, a true ally.
Beleaguered ally right now in a two-front war.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be wise to have a plan for that, to have someone welcoming him on this occasion, especially when things are a little in the air. And it would show competence and confidence that we did have a plan for that. We don't have a plan for that. And it's rather unclear who Netanyahu will be meeting with.
That's right, because Biden was not there. Kamala Harris was obviously preoccupied at the moment. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was not there. So he went down and he greeted people who nobody knew who they were, who were shaking his hands. It was the White House caterer. That's how it went all the way down the chain of command.
There's a chain of command.
Yes.
That's where they ended up.
It's not even Christina Cumberford. It was like below her. It was below her. So.
All right. So there will be meetings, no doubt. but it was very unclear as he was arriving. I believe there's been a report suggesting that he had maybe requested a meeting with Donald Trump, or that there was some communication between those two camps, but I do not think that that's nailed down. Harris, it was reported yesterday, will not be presiding over his address.
Right, so not as the Senate president pro tempore.
Okay, and now is that because she's... Why
Busy?
is that?
She's...
And we're going to get to Kamala.
Yeah.
She is now a candidate, but she's still the vice... That's still her job.
President, that's right.
Okay.
So who's sitting behind him? We don't know yet.
And
on the Democratic side, I think people have said this. I think you and I would have no problems with the person standing behind him would be John Fetterman. That would be a pretty good one.
Give it up. Yeah, so she will not be there, apparently. I guess she'll be executing other duties for the campaign, maybe. Is this a signal, by the way, of her sort of dislike of the state of Israel to the voters that they hope to win back, who also dislike Israel? Probably so.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Remember, she called for a ceasefire while we still have hostages, not only the Israelis, but also the Americans. There are still American hostages, and she was already saying, please, let's stop going after Hamas and trying to get those hostages back. And maybe she had a different plan for how to do that, but she didn't want the Israelis to go into Rafah.
Right.
Because she didn't think they'd be able to move people out. So there's obviously going to be a lot of pressure on her regarding Middle East policy. Netanyahu is not popular at the moment. Not popular in Israel either.
Right.
So I'm sure it doesn't help her. So there's no reason for that. And obviously they have, Michigan on their minds.
They do. By the way, I believe it was USA Today, had a paragraph where they noted some of the problems with naming a Josh Shapiro, though a popular governor of Pennsylvania, to the Democratic ticket with Harris. But they said somewhat more bluntly, as if to victim blame in this case, Shapiro is a supporter of Israel and has not yet released a demand for a ceasefire. Oh, no, I think it was even worse. Shapiro, who is Jewish, has not yet demanded a ceasefire.
Yeah, because if anybody issues the demand for a ceasefire, your local county board probably, if you live in one of these cities, has to issue a demand for a ceasefire, because that's what's going to stop them is the county board.
Shall we talk about Kamala?
Let's do it.
She made her debut as the new candidate at the Wilmington, Delaware campaign headquarters. News is that she will keep everyone in place.
Okay, good for them.
So, yay for their jobs. I think that's probably a boon to the Trump campaign, as this is a team that has driven a candidacy of an incumbent president straight into the ground. No matter how much the principal is responsible for that, the staffing here has not done the job. However, as I think I noted yesterday, Kamala is not renowned for her management skills.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, so they probably don't want her restaffing, and they're going to run with this. But
there's nobody to restaff with from her side.
That's true. She has
she wants to put her people in. Which of her people from the last 4 years have stuck it out? It's not even 4 years. It's less than 4 years. And the vast majority of them have quit, including, one person who went on record and said that, the way that her organization has treated her was just beyond.
Yeah. If you're down to 3 to 4 employees,
that's it.
After
it really is
a stint in the VP office, which should be
out of like 40 or whatever.
Should be a good gig, by the way.
It's the vice president.
It's the vice president. Let's play a little bit of her talking about her relationship with Joe Biden and how she's going to run this campaign.
And I have full faith that this team will be the reason we win in November. You all who are here. And as Julie always says, and I will quote the great Julie, we are one team, one fight. One team, one fight. And she's been an extraordinary campaign manager. She's going to continue in this role and see us to victory in November. And we are all here because we love our country, right? And we believe in our foundational principles. We believe in freedom. and opportunity and justice, not for some, but for all.
So there's a taste. I think, look, she's a vast improvement over Joe Biden as a speaker.
Sure.
Right? So this is
I will grant you that.
I have said in the past that perspective is like one of the world's best drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because having seen what Biden was offering, many Democrats are going to understandably be near euphoric about listening to her speak.
Oh, it's night and day.
Without being on the edge of their seats about what she might do wrong. That does not make her an exceptional speaker, not by a long shot, but I understand that feeling because what you have just done is run a marathon or an ultra marathon, which felt terrible.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I guess we'll do a 10K. And a 10K feels like nothing, right? Or a half marathon. Right. So I don't think we should underestimate that feeling because that feeling is a good vibe that leads to people being more excited about the race, which leads to more donations, which they've gotten plenty of, which leads to more volunteers. And so that is real. That being said, what you just heard was 4 minutes into her big debut speech.
Right.
And she was still just saying thank you. And she had been saying that for 4 minutes. The Julie she referenced, by the way, is that campaign manager, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, who was the one who introduced Biden on the phone as well. So there she is. What do we think?
Yeah, no, she's really good at, if you're in a situation on stage, you need to stall for time and you need to, the next act is running late. We need you to keep on talking. It'd be amazing.
Yeah.
There's a scene, I mentioned a Mighty Wind earlier, and there's later a scene where it's like the Kingsman trio or whatever it is, and Harry Shearer's there, and they're like, okay, we don't know where the next act is. Keep on talking. And Harry Shearer says, okay, I'd like to then talk about our next song, The Skeletons of Quinto. And then he just goes, during the Spanish Civil War. And everybody just is like, oh, no, So this is her thing. But just like the way Joe Biden could not change how Joe Biden is, especially now, I can't imagine that Kamala Harris can change who she was from the time when she ran for president and got less than 1% to, I could be wrong, because she's going to have a huge lift from the media. They weren't on her side, obviously, back in 2020, but that may make a difference. But I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be like, she's not going to pull a My Fair Lady. She's not going to be like Eliza Doolittle and suddenly transformed at the end.
I thought it was interesting in Joe Biden's intro or his talk with the headquarters where he says she's the best. And in fact, all the reporting reflects that he thought she was not the best. Now, his self-regard is blinding him to a certain extent, too.
That's right.
But many people believed that she was not a good option. I still argue that she's the best option they had because voters sort of plausibly understood that this was the package they were voting for. You can't run a mini primary before August. I think that's just totally chaotic and ridiculous.
But as George Clooney said, they did this in France. Why can't we do this here?
I'm told it would be very simple.
What happens to all those people, by the way, who pushed for the open primary and in editorials as well, saying that this shouldn't be a coronation,
Kamala's
right? This is what they said.
Kamala's got But there was a very funny quote from Pelosi being followed in the hallways again, which she does not appreciate because she's not followed by adversarial press ever. Except for like John McCormick of the Dispatch. She was asked, about this coronation question. Should this be a coronation for Kamala Harris? And I think it pretty much will be because she got the endorsement of the president and Nancy Pelosi, and she's lined up enough delegates to say that they are going to be hers. But Nancy says, anyone's welcome to run, which I think in the original Sicilian sounds very different.
Right. Oh, that's very good. That's very good.
Was that too hot to tweet? I almost tweeted it yesterday.
No, you should totally tweet
so
that.
So I do want to play a little bit of the interaction between Kamala and Joe on the phone when she first takes the stage.
It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call, and we've been talking every day. You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do, everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe.
All that hate is just gone now. It's like having it washed away.
Or
Absolution.
Or
as
he's
he would
like,
know
let me
about.
take your moment in your first 20 seconds of your debut speech. I'm just kidding. I thought that was sweet.
Yeah.
I thought that was
I
sweet
mean-
between the two of them. So they're chatting back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think as we move forward, there are ways to attack Kamala and ways not to attack Kamala. The campaign, I think, was quite prepared with a very quick ad. I believe it was a 30-second ad.
Meaning
that we
the Trump
played.
campaign.
Yeah, the Trump campaign was prepared. Put out believe it was a 30-second ad, two-pronged attack. She was part of the cover-up about his health, and she was in charge of the border. That's a very clean hit, very understandable. Yeah. I think she should be held to account for her role in this. By the way, I think it's interesting that she's doubled down both in her mini speech she gave at another event at the White House and then this. She's said on both occasions that she talks to him all the time, that she sees him fighting every day. And I think that digs her hole a little deeper on the complicity issue. Yes,
I mean, it goes both ways. And the other thing is I've also heard other stories in mainstream news that she hasn't actually seen him in person.
Right, which one is it?
Let's
watch Veep and figure it out.
In quite some time. You're also going to see a lot of those clips from Lester Holt, that famous interview where she says that we've been to the border. I love the we because, in case she's hoping that we're going to assume it's the royal we.
That border agent we smeared was definitely at the border. And I had a part in that.
Yeah, whipping the Haitians, and then they had a huge investigation, and of course they weren't. That's not great. So you were going to mention ways not to?
So I want to first There's a lot of talk in the media about Republicans never saw this coming.
Oh.
They did a whole convention about the guy who was on the ticket, and then we switched that guy out.
Fooled you.
In an unprecedented process that no one has done in how many years.
Not a single vote was cast.
And these guys are such suckers.
Mm-hmm.
Really caught them flat on their feet. I'm sure that would be the messaging, by the way, if this had been done the other way around. I'm confused because on one hand, several months ago, Republicans, and indeed 2 years ago, when some Republicans were saying he ain't gonna make it to January 2025, he won't be the nominee. That was called misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
That was called an unreasonable line of debate.
Mm-hmm.
And then cheap fakes were upon us. That was just a month ago. A month and a week ago, maybe?
That's right.
And so on one hand, Republicans pounced, but then after the fact, Republicans didn't pounce enough?
Yeah.
Which one is it? It's Calvin Ball. That's the answer.
Exactly. They want it both ways.
They do.
But again, and Democrats and some of the media are trying to also convince us that as far as they knew, Joe Biden was perfectly fine until that debate, until,
it was just
9 o'clock.
Overcame him immediately.
What?
Yeah. So I think overconfidence is bad. I think going too personal on her is bad. Mm-hmm. There is a clip out there of J.D. Vance before he was the nominee talking to Tucker Carlson and making reference to childless cat ladies.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of childless cat ladies, by the way, vote. It's not like you're going to win them over, but maybe let's not make enemies of them. That kind of stuff is insulting. Mm-hmm. She has a stepdaughter who she was in her life for years. I think she was in her teens probably when they got married. Mm-hmm. But it's not a good line of attack. Right. It's not I don't think an effective line of attack to note how she started her career, although it was due to her relationship with Willie Brown, and she was elevated because of it. But I do not think that is helpful. Mm-hmm. I don't think it gets you very far. What would get you very far is a well-trod path. Take all your Nancy Pelosi criticisms and just make them hers. She is a San Francisco liberal.
She is.
Who is far to the left of any of the people's votes she is trying to earn in that double hater center of the electorate.
Right.
She has been to the left in her voting record of, I believe, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah. During her time in the Senate, she ranks more far left than any other Democratic or independent senator.
She's during her primary race,
which was a plus at the time for her, obviously coming from California.
right? And during her primary race, she espoused all sorts of pretty wild policy ideas,
Sure.
Such as getting rid of all private insurance. I mean, that's one we could play for everyone.
Yeah. Also
On repeat.
Also supporting that Minnesota bail fund, and telling people how to donate to them. And of course, as we've reported in the Washington Free Beacon, a number of those people who they bailed out, only a small percentage were rioters in George Floyd riot situations. The rest were felons who committed murder and rape, and they got back out on the streets and they committed more crimes. And she supported that. And in fact, her face is still being used by the Minnesota Bail Fund to raise money.
She's on record from her race for defunding the police, for decriminalizing illegal immigration, for forcing taxpayers to fund illegal immigrants' health care plans. That's a nice one. She's on record for wanting to destroy the Senate filibuster to pass a $93 trillion Green New Deal. It is wild.
So Jonathan Chait at New York Magazine says that, the strategy now for her needs to be that she takes, a very reasonable, moderate Democrat from Andy Beshear of Kentucky. So somebody, and Andy Beshear himself, by the way, who is already called J.D. Vance fake and a phony, because, it's like, I'm the real Appalachia, he's not the real Appalachia, or whatever it is. I don't know, maybe he doesn't say he's from Appalachia, but certainly questioning JD's creds. The book that he wrote, Hillbilly Elegy, is not fake. Nobody's questioning any of the anecdotes in that book and saying that he exaggerated them. But that's the aim, if they get him or Josh Shapiro or Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, and to appeal to the swing voters and say, you know what? I did what I had to do to win over the voters in California, but now I'm here for you and I get it. That just strikes me as her then, lying, pretending that she's...
I mean, you're going to have to move to the center very quickly. And how much does your vice president really give you cover for that? By the way, I want to play a little of Beshear, who is a popular Democratic governor in Kentucky. That is an accomplishment. Yeah. He has won by more each time, I believe, he has been elected. So each time he's run. I think her name is Annie from Queens. I want to give her credit for this. Tweeted, "Oh no, you guys aren't going to trick me into going in the tank for Hillbilly Beto."
Oh, wow.
I think he's more talented than Beto.
No, much.
But I laughed at that. Here he is talking to Caitlin Collins on CNN.
J.D. Vance is a phony. He's fake. I mean, he first says that Donald Trump is like Hitler, and now he's acting like he's Lincoln. I mean, the problem with J.D. Vance is he has no conviction, but I guess his running mate has 34.
Yes, and they were the convictions, those felonies for murder and rape and pillaging, So it's
okay. So look, he has an electoral record that is good. That clip I don't think is as stunning as I expected it to be, and I'm gonna put him up next to J.D. Vance. This was going viral yesterday for being an awkward clip of Vance on the trail. He says this.
It is the weirdest thing to me. Democrats say that it is racist to believe, well, they say it's racist to do anything. I had a Diet Mountain Dew yesterday and one today. I'm sure they're going to call that racist too, but it's good. I love you guys. But
I don't think that moment is terrible. A lot of people, I think it's a little bit of wish casting to make it terrible.
Sure.
There is going to be an onslaught of nonsense about how Kamala, even in her most cringe moments, is fun and quirky and cool. And when J.D. Vance speaks, and he might be not as engaging as Trump on the stump, which he should not be because Trump would immediately fire him. They're going to say
yin and yang.
That, look, I have many issues with J.D. Vance, but he's a smart, capable person who speaks decently.
Right.
Okay? And they're going to tell you that he is the height of awkward and that Kamala is the height of cool. And
I mean, it's literally they literally have said that already. I mean,
oh yeah, no, and she will be memeified to the hilt. She will be TikTokified to the hilt. In fact, right now, Michael Steele, former head of the RNC, is tweeting a picture of her in a Captain American uniform.
America,
AI.
yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, Captain America. I know that reference.
Wait, what part of is there any aspect of Michael Steele now that still has Republican values? That's what I want to know about. I'm just curious.
I mean,
about
they
what
all
is it
say they
about.
do. They all say they do.
I'm not talking about who the candidate they support, but I'm just really curious if they still espouse things like small government, low taxes, muscular foreign policy, or whatever it is, affirmative action.
You'd have to. We'd have to dig a little deeper on that. I want to play a little clip of Harry Enton, who is CNN's numbers guy, talking about whether it will be difficult for Kamala to beat Trump.
CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton joining me now to run the numbers. There is a lot of excitement. We have not seen this kind of shift in tone from the Democrats in particular. I can't remember a time where we've been through something like this.
This has been the craziest month in American politics that I can possibly recall. It was less than a month ago that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were debating in the CNN debate.
Less than a month.
Less than a month. We had a failed assassination attempt. We had a president literally saying, no, I'm not going to run for re-election less than a month before the Democratic National Convention. But here is the thing, Sarah Seidner, for all of the excitement that Democrats have over Kamala Harris, it is going to be difficult to beat Donald Trump, and I want to give you an understanding of why. Let's take a look here just first at the favorable views of Donald Trump. We know that Donald Trump has historically been unpopular, but take a look now. After the Republican National Convention, in the ABC News Ipsos poll, he recorded his highest ever favorable rating at 40%. That's not a one-off. Take a look at the Quinnipiac University poll, 46%. That's the highest ever in that pollster. The fact is, Donald Trump is more popular now than he ever has been before. So yes, Democrats can make this switcheroo, but they're still going to have to beat Donald Trump, a Donald Trump who is stronger, Sarah, than he has ever been before.
I'm glad that Harry Enton has used the term that I've been using and other people, the switcheroo.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. My question is, are they now going to then force Trump to debate again, but against Kamala, and then Vance, let's say, against Andy Bashir? Is that what's going to happen? Because they're going to wipe the floor. As Al Sharpton said, Kamala's going to wipe the floor with Trump. And, and of course, we know how they feel about J.D. Vance.
I think that Trump is well within his rights to completely renegotiate or turn down that debate altogether. Because a debate is based on the two campaigns and the media organization coming to an agreement that is very sensitive, down to very specific, down to the amount of seconds, number of seconds per answer that you get. And the idea that you're allowed to change the candidate, but the debate still exists is not real. The debate as agreed upon does not exist. So you have to come to a new agreement or there's no debate. So he can be as strong-army as about that or insistent as he wants to be. And they too can come after him for it. But look, he demolished their general election campaign's candidate to such a degree that he had to leave the race.
To get a do-over.
And then you're going to be like, Mr. Trump,
try this person.
Now it's time to do this person.
Debate this person now.
By the way, this is from Puck News, and this will improve, right? As she's introduced to the American people, she will get a boost from people being relieved. She will get a boost from the media being very friendly to her. I believe there's a quote from Van Jones that was like, everything that was cringe about her is suddenly cool in 24 hours.
Yes, Van Jones said that. Yeah.
But this is important. This is polling cited by Peter Hamby in Puck News. More than half of Democrats responded in positive terms to Kamala Harris, and black voters and young voters were more likely to say nice things about Harris than other subgroups, which is good news for Democrats, who have been pining for those voters. But crucially, only 21% of independents responded positively when asked about Harris. Independents were just as likely to call Harris some variation of unlikable or unprepared at 21%, or respond with negative name-calling, 16%. The most common response from independent voters on Harris, that they didn't know much about her at all or had a neutral opinion. That's the area of opportunity for both parties to frame her.
One more than the other, I think. But
16% of people responding unprovoked with negative name calling.
Yeah, the name calling
of a national figure in a poll is something else.
Yeah.
Independents, those are not Trump lovers.
Right. So you were always going to find people who were going to be anybody but Trump. And again, if you had put up, there were people who were full on Joe Biden. And if you looked at, I remember looking at social media during this time, which is terrible, Gage, obviously, but there were so many people who are like, Joe is our guy, and now love Kamala. And I've always been on Team Kamala. You know, I always knew it was time for Joe to step down. No, Joe shouldn't. He should. I do want to bring up Brett Baer asked Delaware Senator Chris Coons, who loves Joe Biden, as you know.
Yes.
He said, "What is Kamala's greatest accomplishment?" And he said, "Quote, something that I think hasn't gotten much coverage is her passion for entrepreneurship, for wealth creation, for securing and stabilizing the middle class. So the greatest accomplishment is the passion."
About wealth creation
again,
and entrepreneurship.
And yet they're going to try, Mary Catherine, to make fetch happen.
Look, they're going to try real hard. And she has an opportunity, and the Trump campaign has an opportunity to frame her as well.
To convince us that cringe is now cool. They're actually saying that.
I mean, they are. They are. That is not a luxury afforded cringe Republicans and never will be. So the Trump campaign should fight like it's 5 points down this entire time.
Yes, and I will say, offering unsolicited advice to our now to the Republicans' vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, to avoid being like those comedians, those sort of mediocre comedians who, in order to kill time sometimes and in between their material, they just laugh a lot about their own jokes and they're interacting with audience, but you don't hear the audience. And so this is just an awkward pause for the rest of us watching on TV. And it's just a lot of
yes, beware too much of that. By the way,
because he's better.
I do think some of the attacks on him over the Diet Mountain Dew are ageist, because the fact is, no matter how redneck you are through and through, you got to switch at about 40 to the light stuff. You can't do the original Dew anymore. It's not feasible.
No, as you know, I don't think it doesn't go well with my A1C. So that's why I switched to Mellow Yellow.
Yes, that'll do the trick. Okay, I'm doing what the whole media is guilty of, and I apologize, which is getting to the Secret Service scandal.
Yeah, I just turned the page and I see USSS.
So late in this program, and I feel like we're going to have to give you guys a little bonus content as we continue to do.
Yeah, I mean, really.
Public servants over
this
here.
Is, you know, honestly.
So let's do a few minutes on this.
We're giving you our all.
Let's do a few minutes on this because it's very important.
It is.
Kimberly Cheatle, who's the head of the Secret Service, has now resigned. At long last, after Comer and Raskin, the Republican and Democratic counterparts, called in a letter together for her to resign. It was the most bipartisan questioning of a figure I have seen in quite some time.
Right. It'll never be as good as that.
Bipartisanly negative for Kimberly Cheatle, who presided over a massive failure of her mission in front of everybody's eyeballs, and then was like, I take responsibility, but like, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave. I think maybe my favorite clip, although there were many. And,
there were many.
Honestly, most of them are Democrats.
It's something else.
Here's Ro Khanna.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree that this is the most serious security lapse since President Reagan was shot in 1981 of the Secret Service?
Yes, sir, I would.
And, do you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? Do you know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned.
Cool. That's going to hurt for a long time.
Go ahead.
Could she not Google this?
Yeah. I'm gonna give props to I saw this on X, Eddie Zipper, who said after that particular clip, well, it could have been worse. She could have said, let me guess, everybody got a raise and they left her alone, but
they gave him a medal, didn't they?
They gave her a medal.
Wild. Also a weird stat I found out on Twitter, I believe it was Dave Weigel of Semaphore, said that the head of the Secret Service after Kennedy's actual assassination stayed on for 2 presidencies after that. That's really something.
Wow.
So lack of accountability is not new.
Yeah, no,
here.
But he had to for the sake of Allen Dulles and the military-industrial complex. They continue to pay his salary.
I gotta
Operation Mongoose.
I got to give it up for AOC, who asked tough questions.
So the notion of a report coming out in 60 days when the threat environment is so high in the United States, irrespective of party, is not acceptable. And I think it's very important to understand that. This is not theater. This is not about jockeying. This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone prior to any actionable decisions that would be made, is simply not acceptable.
She's right. And she goes on to say, we need information to pass legislation to fix this problem.
Can I say this?
What's up?
If the only thing I ever heard from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was that clip, I'd be so in love with her right now.
Such a fan.
So fair. I mean, right up there with Jennifer Love Hewitt. Just, that's right. That's right, Jennifer. I don't even know. How old is she now? She's like 20, 25? Okay, don't tell me how old she is. Okay. Please.
She's safely a millennial. So.
I know.
Okay. I'm going to play one specific question she asked her to.
An AR-15 has a range of about 400 to 600 yards. My question is, why does the Secret Service perimeter, why is the Secret Service protective perimeter shorter than one of the most popular semi-automatic weapons in the United States?
There are a number of weapons out there with a number of ranges. Again, an advance was completed. The determination of the perimeter, I'm not going to speak to specifics, but there are a number of factors that are taken into account when we determine our perimeter. Some of it has to do with terrain, some of it has to do with buildings, some of it has to do with assets and resources that are available.
She's bad.
Here's what's really shocking is her excuse was, we're still investigating. We'll have a report in 60 days. Also, do you know how, when she's asked by Republicans and Democrats specific questions about the crime scene, she says, well, it's only been 9 days. Not that you've had 9 days, but rather it's only 9 days. Please, I need much more time. And people are asking, the other question was, well, you were so much more forthright and open on your ABC interview, and all of a sudden here she clams up. I think the reason, obviously, is because she's under oath.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and John Podhoretz, I believe, was the one who said he thinks that the news about the security requests from the Trump campaign being denied broke over the weekend so that she would not perjure herself. By the way, not that it matters. Like, Brennan and Clapper perjured themselves.
Right.
And nobody cares.
Right.
But
that's right.
One last clip, the hottest of the clips. Nancy Mace.
Nancy Mace.
Nancy Mace of South Carolina. Here we go.
My first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible...
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Nancy Mace, everyone.
I was in my office, but in the newsroom, they had the volume on to listen to the hearings. And then I hear her use profanity. And I walked out and said, did somebody just say that? Because I thought, there's no way that came from the TV. Oh, no, it came from the TV, and it was Nancy Mace.
Okay, so can I say, I think my like well-behaved TV personality gut goes, cuss on the, when you're in Congress.
Yeah.
However, there's something about full of shit that really communicates
more than
what she is.
Yeah.
And everybody's thinking it.
Right.
And maybe someone just needs to say it. By the way, you know what's so much worse than cussing in this proceeding? Lying in this proceeding.
Yeah, incompetence.
Lying, accidentally almost letting the former president be assassinated? Those are much larger sins.
There are some big questions here.
Yeah.
Right? And number one, remember when she explained about the sloped roof?
Yeah.
And saying that, we couldn't have everybody. And it wasn't even as sloped as the other roofs that had actual Secret Service on them. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is not being clear about how the shooter got on the roof, where the weapon was. And then also, she couldn't even answer, this is a lone gunman, right? Well, I'll get back to you on that. That doesn't help anybody when you say that.
Right.
And then, of course, she wouldn't discuss the actual Secret Service sniper who took down the shooter, but was he spotted and didn't shoot? What they want to know is why, and I'm sure there's a reason, but why did that person not respond until after the shooter, discharged?
I think she also didn't
several
address
rounds.
The number of rounds on the roof, which is
so those things need to be answered. We're not talking about conspiracy here. I'm just saying, it'd be great to have answers.
No, this is what they do.
That's
though.
all
Like the ruling class, the media, academia, these guys all combined, Democrats usually, although I appreciate them going after her here, get together and say, no, this part cannot be discussed. This is a conspiracy theory. And sometimes asking questions is warranted, particularly asking questions of people who have lied to you over and over and over again. And if they are not pushed, you will not get answers. And if the media does not push them, as it often does not like to with Democrats, we will not get answers. She has become like an undeniable target for both parties in this case. That's rhetorical, guys, in this case. And I'm glad she has lost her job.
Likewise, I believe it's the first major person in the administration to lose his or her job. So it's a start.
Oh, actually, no, wait. Hold on.
Who am I forgetting?
The first person was Joe Biden.
Oh, wow. Ouch. Burn, as the
Joe,
kids
then
used to say.
Kim.
Okay.
Still nobody for Afghanistan.
No.
Anyway.
No.
Let's close it out. We got nothing light for you guys today.
I do want to say, Mary Catherine, and to our listeners, I've been doing this for 28 years now, and there are stretches of time where I would think to myself, I wish something would happen in the news. I really thought that. I'm never going to think that ever again. I can't wait to get back to being focused on medical savings accounts. Okay, that wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube, and you can follow me on Twitter at Victorino Mattis.
I'm at MK Hammer on Twitter, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. You can follow the show at Getting Hammered Podcast on YouTube or Instagram to watch us back in our studio. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for getting hammered responsibly. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.